Welcome to the Retiring Canada podcast, where our mission is to educate and empower you to make the most informed, rational, and productive financial decisions. Hosted by certified financial planner, author, and chartered investment manager Michael Isbister, you'll go behind the scenes to uncover the tips and strategies to help you invest smarter, optimize your retirement income, and reduce the amount of tax you pay. Michael is an investment advisor with Fundamental Wealth, a trade name of Harbourfront Wealth Management, an IROC dealer. And now, here's your host, Michael Isbister.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Retiring Canada podcast. In today's episode, we're going to discuss navigating retirement when one spouse handles all the finances. Specifically, we're going to chat about how responsibilities are split between spouses, the probability the surviving spouse will find a new advisor within a year, a real-world experience when one spouse passes away, understanding what value means, and lastly, a few action items for you to consider. In relationships, things are very rarely 50-50. Whether it's household chores, maintenance around the house, cooking, and yes, your personal finances. In most cases, one spouse will tend to take on the lion's share of a certain task. And I think that's pretty normal, especially when it comes to personal finances. Now, it's not that the one spouse doesn't care about whether or not they're financially okay. Maybe one spouse is more responsible for day-to-day finances, while the other takes the lead when it comes to long-term financial planning. Maybe there is a genuine lack of interest about investments, a deferral to the spouse who cares more, or maybe there's a bit of an intimidation factor, especially when sitting in front of a professional advisor. Which, to be fair, many advisors lean into overcomplicating things, or simply just make stuff hard to understand. Furthermore, in many cases, one spouse may simply not feel heard, or perhaps the advisor only really makes eye contact or engages with one of the spouses, which really compounds the issue and pushes the non-financial spouse even further away from engaging in a very important part of their livelihood. But at the end of the day, financial education is incredibly crucial, especially for those spouses who have been disconnected from the process for a number of years. So just think, if something were to happen to the spouse who tackles most of the financial decisions, would the other spouse be okay? Now put yourself in that situation, assuming you have a significant other. Would your spouse be able to adapt and take a hold of the financial component of the life that you've built together? Now, if there is a trusted advisor relationship in place where both spouses feel comfortable, then great. Having a professional in your corner to help your spouse after you are gone should be a tremendous relief. Let me share an experience I recently had with some clients. Let's call them John and Sue. Not too long ago, we received a call from John who was terminal. His cancer had come back and it was sure to take him. When we met, it was rough. We had been a part of their retirement journey and had helped them through a number of milestones. When we sat down, the first thing he did was look me dead in the eye and said to me, "You take care of her now." I honestly get chills when I think about that conversation, and it does get me emotional still. I gave him my word, and that meeting was the last time that we spoke. In their case, John was the main driver in the financial planning meetings. And while Sue was always present, engaged, and felt heard, she never had the same level of interest or concern about their personal finances. Since John's passing, Sue and I have met regularly. We have helped settle the estate, simplify her day-to-day finances, and make an income and tax plan going forward to properly reflect her new reality. This will be an ongoing process that will require conversation and understanding to help Sue navigate her life and finances. This experience really got me thinking about other couples at or nearing retirement. As I mentioned earlier, if you have that trusted advisor in your corner that both you and your spouse connect with, then count yourself lucky. In an op-ed from CNBC, They reported that various surveys show that nearly 80% of women will at some point become the sole financial decision maker. And furthermore, that 80% of those widows switch advisors within the first year of their husband's passing. I included a link to the article in the show notes. So what does this tell us? Well, in many cases, the advisor had a relationship with the deceased and never fully involved the spouse in the financial planning and investing process. So the next time you have your financial check-in with your advisor, ask the question, do you feel heard? Is your spouse being heard? Now, for those of you DIY investors, I hate to break it to you, but you really need to have your ducks in a row here. I often find that when I meet the DIY investor, they are the 100% sole driver of the investment ship, and the other spouse is not involved. To further complicate things, financial education can be very hard to translate, even for a professional advisor. So chances are that as a DIY investor, there will likely be some additional hurdles in transferring your knowledge to your spouse. Now, as a professional advisor, I strive each and every day to provide massive value to our clients. But what does value mean? Is it optimizing your investments? How about consistent communication? Maybe it's reducing taxes and living a life well lived. Or perhaps it's the value in peace of mind knowing your family will be cared for even after you're gone. And at the end of the day, if you choose to work with an advisor, you are paying them. And in my opinion, you should be getting much more than someone who just picks stocks. Okay, so that'll do it for today. Here are your action items for today's episode. If you have a spouse, it's time to check in on your finances. You can think of this discussion as if it was an estate plan. Just like you want to have your will and powers of attorney in good order, you want to apply the same care and attention to the professionals who you ask to steward your family after you're gone. Here are some questions to get the conversation going. Do you feel heard in the meetings with our advisor? Would you be comfortable managing our finances on your own? Do you feel confident you could work with our advisor if I passed? If you don't have a spouse, there is still an important consideration here. At some point, you should introduce the executor of your will to your financial professionals. There will come a time where the executor will need to communicate directly with your professionals. So at the very least, creating a connection over a coffee could help both the executor and professional get on the same page. This connection is especially important if your executor has never gone through the estate process before. These meetings can help to educate the executor and set expectations that they would otherwise be unaware of. Okay, so that'll do it for today's episode. A quick one for you. Be sure to add us on all of our socials, LinkedIn and Facebook. Check out our resources and website, retiringcanada.ca. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and leave us a 5-star review in your favorite podcast app. Be sure to sign up for our weekly Retiring Canada newsletter. And hey, when it comes to your retirement, don't take chances. Make a plan so you can retire with confidence.
All comments are of a general nature and should not be relied upon as individual advice. The views and opinions expressed in this commentary may not necessarily reflect those of Harbourfront Wealth Management. While every attempt is made to ensure accuracy, facts and figures are not guaranteed. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing or tax advice. Please seek advice from your accountant regarding anything raised in the content of the podcast regarding your individual tax situation. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.